So today we're diving into something that's honestly quite shocking. Ford's latest financials just dropped. And while the company is celebrating record profits overall, there's a $5.5 billion elephant in the room. Their EV division is actually hemorrhaging money. But here's the twist. It's not because their electric vehicles are bad. In fact, some of the decisions they've made are actually quite brilliant. The real problem? Well, that's where things get quite interesting. Look at these numbers. Ford's total revenue hit $48.2 billion, but their EV division, it's down by 35% to just $3.9 billion. And they're losing about $37,000 on every single EV that they sell. And guys, look, that's not a typo. $37,000 per vehicle. Now, to put that into perspective, that's more than the entire starting price of many competing EVs. Let's take the Mustang Mach-E for example. It's a fantastic vehicle. Consumer Reports even rated it higher than the Tesla Model Y in several categories. Sales were up 27% last year with 51,745 units sold. The F-150 Lightning, another 33,510 units, up 39%. Now, these aren't failing products. They're actually quite successful in terms of consumer acceptance. But here's what really fascinates me. This massive loss isn't just about competition or market conditions. It comes down to three critical decisions that Ford made. Or rather, decisions they didn't make fast enough. And that's exactly what we need to talk about today. But before we dive deeper, let's get some context. The global EV market actually grew by 25% last year, hitting 17.1 million units. Tesla's dominating with over 51% market share, while Ford is sitting about 4.2%. But these numbers only tell part of the story. So check this out. While Ford's traditional ICE division, Ford Blue, sold 2.86 million units, Ford Pro moved 1.5 million units, but their EV division managed just 105,000 sales. And look, here's the thing, it's not because people don't want their EVs. So let's break down exactly what is happening in that market. China sold 11 million EVs last year, a 40% increase. Europe, 3 million units. And North America, just 1.8 million with a modest 9% growth. This regional disparity is crucial to understanding Ford's challenge here. Now, Jim Farley, Ford's CEO, recently said that they're becoming a fundamentally stronger company and that they've learned a lot as the #2 US electric vehicle brand about what customers want and value. But here's what's fascinating. While they're learning these lessons, they're paying an astronomical price for their education. You see, when you look at Ford's traditional vehicle operations, they're actually crushing it. The Ford Pro is projected to earn 7 to 8 billion this year, and Ford Blue, that's another 3.5 to 4 billion. These divisions are profitable powerhouses for Ford. So what's going wrong with their EV division? You see, that's where our story really should begin. Let's talk about Ford's first critical misstep, their approach to vertical integration. Or should I say, a lack of it. You see, while companies like Tesla and BYD are building everything from their own chips to their own software, Ford stuck with their traditional supplier network. And this is what I think we should double click on, because when you're dealing with dozens of suppliers for your EV components, each with their own software systems, creating a seamless user experience becomes exponentially more complex. It's like trying to conduct an orchestra where every musician is playing from a different sheet of music. So let me break this down with a real world example. When Tesla wants to improve their regenerative braking efficiency, they can simply update their motor control software, battery management system, and brake control unit simultaneously, because they control all of these systems. But you see, at Ford, they need to coordinate with their motor supplier, their battery supplier, their brake system supplier, and their central software team. Each of these suppliers has their own development cycle, their own testing requirements, and their own software architecture. And this is kind of creating what we call integration overhead. And look guys, it's massive. You see, the financial impact is staggering. Industry analysts estimate that this fragmented approach increases development costs by 30 to 40% compared to vertically integrated systems. But here's the thing, it also slows down innovation. You see, while Tesla can push out major updates, major software updates every few weeks, Ford's update cycle can take months. And here's the thing, it's not just about software. Let's look at their battery supply chain. Ford is currently sourcing batteries from multiple suppliers, SK Innovation, Catel, and others. And each supplier has a different cell chemistry, different form factors, and different performance characteristics. This means that Ford has to maintain multiple battery management systems, multiple thermal management solutions, and multiple charging protocols. Now, do you remember that $37,000 loss per vehicle? A significant chunk of that comes from what I call dealer dilemma. And it's not just about the markup. You see, traditional car dealers make about 45% of their profit from service and maintenance. And the average dealer makes about $2,800 per year from servicing each ICE vehicle. But EVs, they require about 30% less maintenance. They don't need any oil changes, fewer brake jobs, and simpler powertrains. This creates what I call the dealer's dilemma. And just think about this. When a customer walks into a Ford dealership, the salesperson has two options. They can sell them an F-150 ICE truck, which will generate substantial service revenue for years. Or they can sell them an F-150 Lightning, which might never need more than tire rotations or even software updates. Which one do you think they're more motivated to sell? But look, it gets even more fascinating. When Tesla sells directly to consumers with a fixed price model, Ford's dealer network adds another layer of costs. We're talking about an average markup of between 8 to 15% on every vehicle. In an industry where margins are already razor thin, that's a massive handicap. So let's put some numbers to this. Take a Mustang Mach-E with an MSRP of $46,000. Add dealer markup, various fees, and suddenly you're looking at $50,000 to $52,000. Tesla, meanwhile, can sell their Model Y for a similar MSRP, but pocket that extra margin themselves, or even better, pass the savings on to the customer. But here's the main problem. Ford's hands are tied by franchise laws in many states. And these laws, originally designed to protect dealers, are now actively preventing Ford from modernizing their sales model. Combine this with dealer resistance to EV training and infrastructure investments, and you've got a big problem on your hands. But here's where things get really problematic for Ford. You see, the dealers who are most successful at selling EVs are actually the ones who've completely reimagined their business model. You see, what they've done is they've invested heavily in EV training and built dedicated EV showrooms. They've hired EV specialists, and they've developed a new revenue stream to replace the lost service income. The problem, less than 25% of Ford dealers have made this transition. And this leads us to our next critical challenge. Now we're getting to what I consider the most fascinating part of Ford's EV challenge, the scale problem. You see, Ford's actually making some smart moves in their manufacturing process. They've managed to cut $5,000 from the production cost of each Mach-E, which I think is actually pretty impressive. But the thing is, their battery facilities and production lines aren't running at optimal capacity. So let me show you exactly what this means in real numbers. You see, Ford's current EV production capacity is set up for about 600,000 units annually. But in 2023, they only produced 105,000 units. That's a utilization rate of just 17.5%. Think about the implications here. When you're running a production line at less than 20% capacity, your fixed costs get spread across fewer vehicles. Things like factory overhead, tooling, amortization, and facility maintenance. It's kind of like running a restaurant that's only using one table but still paying rent for the entire space. But let's contrast this with Tesla's Fremont factory. They're running at nearly 100% capacity, producing over 460,000 vehicles annually. And their Shanghai factory, that's even better. Their Shanghai factory is actually operating at 120% of its original design capacity. And this efficiency, what it does, it translates directly to their bottom line. Now, I believe Ford is actually trying to solve this. They've announced a $1.4 billion cost improvement initiative, but here's the crucial piece I think many are missing. It's not just about cutting costs. When Mach-E prices dropped by 17%, their volumes increased by 141%, And this proves there's demand for their EVs if it's at the right price point. The problem is, the scale problem gets even more complex when we look at their battery strategy. You see, Ford's currently juggling multiple battery suppliers and chemistries. SK Innovation providing NCM cells, Cattell with their LFP technology, and their own Blue Oval SK joint venture still ramping up. You see, each of these requires different tooling, different testing procedures, and a different supply chain management. And while this diversity might seem like a good risk management strategy, it's actually creating what I call a complexity tax that's making their scaling problems even worse. And this leads us to perhaps the most critical challenge of all. You see, the global EV market is expected to hit $828.6 billion this year in 2025, and that's not just a number, it actually represents a fundamental shift in the automotive industry. And Ford's position in this transition is, well, complicated. Guys, just look at these trajectories. China's EV sales grew by 40% last year, hitting 11 million units. Europe saw 3 million sales, and North America reached 1.8 million with a 9% growth. Ford should really be perfectly positioned to capitalize on this growth, especially in their home market. But instead, their EV market share has actually dropped to 4.2%, while their biggest competitor, Tesla, holds 51.3%. But here's what makes this situation really fascinating. Ford's traditional vehicle divisions are actually thriving. Ford Pro is projected to earn 7 to 8 billion this year, and Ford Blue another 3.5 to 4 billion dollars. You see, this this creates what I call an innovator's paradox. You see, Ford has a century of manufacturing expertise, a massive global supply chain, really deep engineering talent, strong brand loyalty, an extensive distribution network. Yet these traditional strengths are becoming anchors in the EV transition, and this brings us to something even more critical. In my opinion, the real threat isn't even Tesla anymore. It's from companies like BYD, who've mastered both vertical integration and scale. They produced over 3 million EVs last year, and their cost per vehicle is approximately 25% lower than Ford's. But there's an even bigger challenge looming. You see, by 2030, EVs are expected to represent over 40% of global vehicle sales. But here's something that's quite exciting for Ford. They actually have all the pieces they need to turn this around, but they need to move faster, much faster. Let me show you exactly what I mean. First, let's address the vertical integration challenge. Ford's already started moving in the right direction with their $1.4 billion cost improvement initiative. But compare this to BYD's $5.3 million investment in vertical integration last year alone. The solution isn't just spending more, it's actually spending smarter. So here's my opinion, and I might be right, might be wrong. Here's what Ford needs to do. They need to consolidate their battery suppliers and chemistries. Yes, this means short-term pain, but it's crucial for long-term scaling. What they also need to do is bring software development in-house. They have the talent, they just need to commit. And they also need to standardize their EV architecture across all models. This alone could cut their development costs by up to 30% by my calculations. And here's something really fascinating that I think most people have missed. You see, Jim Farley has been dropping some interesting hints about licensing autonomous technology, particularly level 4 autonomy. And this is actually brilliant for two reasons. You see, first, it finally shows that Ford is ready to move fast when they need to. Instead of spending years and billions developing everything in-house, they're open to licensing proven technology. This could include, and this is where it gets really interesting, potentially licensing Tesla's full self-driving technology. And if you think about this logically, Tesla has already invested billions in developing and testing autonomous systems. By licensing this technology, Ford could slash development costs, accelerate their timeline by years, and focus their resources on manufacturing optimization. What they should really do is leverage Tesla's massive real-world data advantage. Now, about that dealer network. Ford doesn't need to abandon their dealers. What they really need to do is they need to transform them. Now, imagine this. Dedicated EV experience centers within existing dealerships with fixed pricing and a completely different compensation model for EV sales. And the data shows that dealers who have already made this transition are seeing EV sales increase by 300%. And here's how to solve that scale problem. Focus on the high margin segments first. The F-150 Lightning has proven there's demand, but implement aggressive cost reduction targets. Not just 5,000 per vehicle, but 15,000, and leverage their existing manufacturing expertise for faster production scaling. But here's the most critical part. Every single month that Ford waits to fully commit to these changes costs them approximately $458 million in EV losses. The solution isn't just about what they do, it's about how quickly they do it. Look, I'll be honest with you, Ford isn't just some other legacy auto manufacturer. They're the company that revolutionized manufacturing with the Model T. They have the capability, they have the experience and the resources to really do well in the EV market. But they need to channel some of that same revolutionary spirit that made them great in the first place. Now look, I'm not going to lie, the global EV market will hit $828.6 billion next year. And Ford's traditional divisions are already proven they can compete and win in their segments. I think if they can apply these solutions with the urgency they require, they could turn their EV division profitable well before their projected 2027 timeline. So, tell me what you think. Should Ford be more aggressive with their EV strategy? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to stay up to date on how this situation develops, and you want to stay ahead of the EV curve, every Thursday I send out a comprehensive analysis of the week's biggest developments in the electric vehicle space. From breaking technical innovations to market movements that matter, the Electric Oracle Weekly delivers the insights you need straight into your inbox. It's free, it's focused, and it's made for people who want to understand where this industry is really heading. You'll find a sign-up link in the description below. Guys, my name's Des from the Electric Oracle. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.